There are thousands of people around and the streets are blocked off. Police are everywhere, stopping cars from coming in. But this is not a major sporting event, and it is not a big ticket concert happening in Warsaw. This is the 1st of November, All Saints' Day, one of the most important and magical days in the Polish national calendar. And in today's episode on Heart Poland, we're going to go behind the scenes and take a look at this incredibly extraordinary experience. So we're in the Powązki Military Cemetery in the heart of Warsaw, and this is one of the most important and most impressive cemeteries that I've certainly ever come to. And I remember when I first came to Poland and I first went to a cemetery on All Saints' Day, and I was completely blown away by the extraordinary experience that you can now see before you as well. On this day, Poles flock to the cemeteries where their loved ones, former family members, are buried. And they go because they want to pay respect to those people. They clean the graves, they leave behind these extraordinary votive candles, wreaths and flowers in order to remember people that were close to them. It's a beautiful day because, of course, as you can see behind me, the cemeteries suddenly become filled with life, filled with colour. And then as the evening descends, the extraordinary sight of a sea of candles in the darkness. Poles coming together to celebrate their culture and tradition and the people that they love. Now, the origins of All Saints' Day lies in a mix of Slavic and Catholic traditions, but it is part of the official Catholic calendar and it's celebrated throughout Europe. But nobody does it quite like the Poles. These cemeteries come alive with these rippling layers of light, and if you were to fly above Poland on this day and in the days ahead, you just see these cemeteries which have literally just spring to life with light. One of the things that I find most extraordinary about this day is some of the customs that Poles practice, and one of them is that if they find a grave, say close to the one where they're visiting and cleaning, that hasn't been cleaned and doesn't have votive candles or flowers, then they'll lay a candle of their own. The Powązki Military Cemetery is also one of the most extraordinary places, I think, in Warsaw, because it holds the graves of so many of the Polish soldiers, men and women, who fought for Poland's freedom and Poland's sovereignty. One of them here, a soldier who died in 1944 in the Warsaw Uprising, who was not known, whose identity is unknown. And somebody's come here and just laid 2 candles in that person's memory. Of course, each of these graves is a story, a person's life story. And whilst the stories that are contained here in Warsaw's military cemetery are extraordinary, full of courage, daring do, adventure and sacrifice, what I think is particularly compelling about All Saints' Day in Poland is the way that families come together, frequently meeting for the first time in months, to go to the graves of the important people in their family and remember them. And this is true not only if you're older, but also if you're a child as well. And it's this sense that Poles are keeping together their tradition as families and as a nation by carrying out this simple but powerful act all together, all in one day. Of course, people also come to cemeteries to look at the graves of other people and to think about their extraordinary lives. And you can see the number of people and the number of candles that have come here and lain in tribute of Kazimierz Dejna, one of Legia Warsaw's most famous and accomplished football players. And the Powązki Cemetery, like so many cemeteries, is full of colourful characters leading colourful lives who on this day are being remembered by people who they've never even met before. And of course, because of Poland's traumatic and troubled recent past, Polish cemeteries are filled with the graves of people who have gone through immense sacrifices for Poland's freedom. And nowhere perhaps tells that story better than in this part of the Powązki Military Cemetery, which pays tribute to the soldiers who were killed and whose bodies were suspected to be dumped somewhere in this cemetery but have never been found by the communist authorities. Among them, Captain Witold Pilecki, the soldier who's most famous for volunteering to go into Auschwitz and set up the underground resistance there before escaping, fighting in the Warsaw Rising, and then being captured and executed by the communist authorities. And whenever I come to Powązki Military Cemetery, I always light a candle in his honour, like so many people have done on this particularly moving day. Why is All Saints' Day so important in Polish history, in Polish culture and today? What does it mean for you?
I think it's mainly down to the fact that we're a very religious nation by nature, and this is the day where we remember, commemorate our lost ones, but also our fallen heroes. And this is really ground zero as far as Polish martyrdom is concerned, right?
Okay, so tell me about some of the graves you've been visiting with your family today.
We've really just arrived, so this was our first point where we wanted to go. But we'll definitely be visiting the Smolensk Memorial and other military graves of the young scouts that fell in the Second World War. The Home Army quarter, the National Armed Forces quarter. So we'll definitely be visiting those places because for us it's, well, we just can't imagine ourselves being anywhere else today, right? This is like a life history lesson for them.
And is it important to you that your children accompany with you as you go to the graves of the people in your family and the people, your loved ones as well?
Yeah, because this is the best opportunity to basically tell them the stories, just to make them aware of our history, make them aware of the sacrifice that this nation had to bear to achieve its freedom.
Now you're here in this particular section because you're commemorating someone who's very important to your family, I understand. Can you tell his story?
Right. We don't really have the time to tell you the entire history because my grandfather, Major Karol Sęk, he basically dedicated his entire life to fighting for Poland's independence, right? Since his teen years, where he was arrested for tearing down the emblem of the Prussian consulate in Warsaw, up to 1952. When he was murdered by the communist government.
And he's somewhere here, yeah? This is
no, because these are actually the identified men. Thank God that so many of them already have been, but we're still waiting patiently, hopefully for the end success that will be the identification of his earthly remains.
Why have you come to the Powązki Cemetery today?
Because this is, like, for me very important and for my country, because, like, here are some of people that die here, and I just came here just to show them that they are important for me. I mean, that way.
And have you visited any of your family's graves here in the cemetery or elsewhere?
No, I'm gonna visit my family tomorrow.
And do you think this Święto, do you think it brings your family together? Is it important to you and your family?
Yes, in some way it's very important because this is like, here is army of my country, and they just died for just me to be free right now, and I just show them that I didn't forget about that they here.
Now we deliberately come to this cemetery as night falls because this is when these cemeteries become so magical. They literally glow with the sight of hundreds of thousands of candles burning not just for this night but for many nights to come as the Poles come to these places and remember their dead, remember their families, remember the people who fought for their freedom and their sovereignty. Now, thank you very much for watching this episode of Heart of Poland. Please do share this film so that other people can learn about this special day. I can think of nothing better now than to leave you with the sight of this cemetery in the darkness, glowing with these thousands of candles.